Greetings, everyone, to the Win Via Trust Leadership Podcast. I am Mike Rabinowitz, and in this podcast, I speak directly with leaders and newsmakers to provide you with both practical guidance and fresh inspiration as you think about trust in your own leadership journey. For those who wish to go deeper beyond the podcast, my book, Win Via Trust, is now available on Amazon and other locations. We have covered a remarkable amount of ground in the first 9 episodes, from CEOs to the military to musicians to physician leaders. The conversations have been packed with sharp insights and real stories from the field. Today, I'm bringing together some of the standout moments, the ones that spark the most reaction and the most reflection. There's a lot here, so I may share additional highlights in a future episode, but for now, consider this a powerful reset and a chance to revisit the ideas that matter most. Let's start with how our guests define trust.
I think trust is really important in business and in life. I don't know many successful humans that I can't trust. But I think it boils down to kind of 3 things, and there's some overlap among these 3, but I think it's honesty, integrity, and follow through. Especially in a business setting, I think being honest, professionally honest, is important. And then operating with integrity. Oftentimes I tell people that report into me that it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And so that approaching people with kindness, empathy, and trying to find mutual goals is super important. But I think the thing that has helped me the most is consistently demonstrating that I did what I said I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not always that I did it right. I think that comes back to the honest thing. But if I told you I was going to do 6 things in 2025, I would hold myself accountable to share where I was at with those 6 things. And if I didn't do well on one of the 6, I would also be really honest about what I didn't do well, why I didn't do well, and what I was going to do about it, right? And so I think like that accountability and follow through in a business setting are just as important as just being a good person and operating with integrity and being honest.
Well, trust means to me, it means integrity, it means character, it means leadership, it means doing what you say you're going to do. Now, no one's perfect, so sometimes it doesn't always work out. So that's what trust means to me, that people realize that you will walk the talk and you will deliver on what you say you will deliver.
In 2025, trust is defined by predictability, transparency, and a mutual value exchange. For AI on Google Search, trust is a framework of responsible principles designed to ensure reliability for users. The AI's perspective on trust is that trust is a technical and ethical commitment to 1. Reliability and consistency. Predictability is key. Users trust AI when it consistently delivers accurate and helpful results. 2. Transparency and accountability. Being open is essential. This includes clarity about data use, admitting when an answer is unavailable, and following safety guidelines. And the value exchange. Modern trust involves empowerment. It is a value exchange where users provide context or data, and AI provides high-quality personalized insights that respect privacy and autonomy. Trust allows humans and intelligent systems to collaborate effectively. Without it, the AI is just a tool.
All of our distinguished guests recognize that trust has been critical to their success. Please hear it in their own words.
It's a great question. When I think about trust, I think about the importance of building personal relationships with people, whether it be in the office or obviously in your personal life. When I first started my career, I think my mindset was that work was at work and your personal life was your personal life. But what I learned as I built my leadership skills, that things actually get done in the office by building more personal relationships. And you can't have a personal relationship without trust. So what trust means to me is being able to count on somebody and having people be able to count on you. So when you say something, people know that you're going to follow through on it, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And it's really important because if people don't trust you, then they're not going to allow you to lead them or lead the organization.
Being a little biased here for sure, I believe that email tends to be the nucleus for most businesses, right? Like it's your most deeply personal connection with people. If I think about somebody opting into my list, much like one of our customers feels the same way, it's deeply personal. They're inviting you into a personal relationship with them that social and things like that really don't compete with. So from there, I think the opt-in starts with trust. It builds that trust foundation. So they want to make sure that they're getting what they opted in to receive. So permission is paramount there, that they've requested that information and that you deliver what you said you're going to deliver. I think that goes back to what we talked about before in terms of consistency, so that you are developing this relationship that's built on, let's say it's education, that you're providing that type of education to your subscribers. You're doing it on a time frame that you've agreed upon. You're doing it in a format that they've agreed upon, and that you remember that email is humans talking to humans. One of my least favorite words in this industry is the term blast. I'm going to blast out to my subscribers. Nobody talks like that. When you're sending an email, you are putting your heart and soul into something and you're delivering it to other humans who are going to be receiving that on the other end. When you think about that, and when our customers think about that, and that's something that we try to educate on a lot, it makes the experience completely different. It's about a conversation. You're now having a conversation with people who invited you into their living room, their bedroom, to their phones to read something that they have clearly opted in to receive, but they want and they enjoy. And when you start off that way in terms of building that relationship with somebody, it sets the tone completely different. It builds a level of trust directly and indirectly, because you're not trying to, again, amplify a message. You're trying to build a relationship with somebody, and you just happen to be doing it at scale. So the one email that you send may end up going to 10, 15, 100, 1,000, 100,000 people. But whatever it is, if you keep that nucleus, that core sort of relationship building, to me, that's what this is all about. And that's how you stand out in a very competitive marketplace. We do this. I mean, we're our own customers, right? We use our own tool to send out emails to our customers. So at the very forefront, trust is built into all of that.
How do leaders deal with others who are not trustworthy? Here are a few stories.
It's a really important question, and I'll back into it with a story. So fractional services, just briefly, what that means is rather than work for one healthcare company like I did at Walgreens or other companies I worked for, I work for several part-time, maybe a day a week or 2 days a week. They get the benefit of my support on a part-time basis, and it works financially for them. And I get to work with a lot of interesting entrepreneurs and exciting ideas. The story is, not too long ago, I won't mention any names, I had a client earlier this year, and they had a really exciting product, a digital tool that could help diagnose high blood pressure and perhaps diabetes. I, over time, and maybe a little belatedly, looked into the data, the research data, to look at how accurate the tool was.
Mm-hmm.
And much to my chagrin, for one of the metrics, I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to be too public about it, but the data wasn't that good. And it concerned me that the tool might alert consumers/patients that they had a risk of heart disease or stroke when they might not. Because every test, every tool has a precision to it, right? An accuracy.
Right.
Even laboratory tests aren't perfect. So anyway, I discussed it with the CEO, the founder, and I said, I don't think we can promote this the way we're promoting it. And he said, well, that's the key value proposition. We're not going to have a business if we don't promote it this way. That was essentially the conversation. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. And I gave up some income, but it was the right thing to do. I mean, who I am as a physician leader is built upon people trusting, if I'm associated with something, that it's high quality and it does what it says it's going to do.
Now, people that have worked for me that I couldn't trust, those have been hard conversations, but I don't sugarcoat it. I had a guy working for me one time who was cheating on his hours, filing false reports, and I called him out on it, and I got rid of him. Because at that point in time, you realize that, hey, listen, the contract of trust was established up front and that person violated it. So sometimes it's black and white. The problem sometimes is in this gray where you say, okay, well, this person, did they know any better? Were they told what to do? And so you feel like initially you want to try to make sure you train them up so that, hey, listen, I can put you in a situation of trust. Because now, once I've addressed the issue of, maybe it was my fault they didn't understand what they were supposed to do, and so I couldn't trust them. But once you've gone through the process of giving you the training, I've given you the direction, I've showed you how to do it, and if they still can't do it, and then that makes me not trust them, then that person is someone that is in the wrong job. And so I've had to remove people like that out of the organization, off my team.
Unfortunately, trust can be broken. Listen to how some of our leaders tried to repair trust.
Yeah, thanks for that question. This work is so important. It's about empowering those who've experienced trauma by helping them on their healing journey. So we're going to be about inner healing. We have a lot of different strategies to work with youth and families, whether it's therapy programming or just creative arts. And then we're about promoting stability. So, a lot of our young people and families have had instability in their housing situations. And so we're about making sure they have a great place to live, to get those skills to kind of move on from us. And then community connection. All of us need community to grow. It's about those stable adults, but also community around us. So we're about helping communities to build up again by offering resources and other linkages. So our 7 core programs really hit those 3 areas. And that's, again, where trust is just so critical at every level that we're trying to work and take the youth and the family where they're at. Again, it's a journey. It's not a race. Some people in the world will say, well, why can't you just solve this person's trauma? It's, again, where are they at? And what program is going to work with them the best, through our services at Lawrence Hall to get them towards a better healing pathway. And that takes some time.
One thing I liked in your book is that you talked about apologizing. And apologizing is an art. You have to not only say you're sorry, but you have to make sure that whoever it is who you're apologizing to understand why you're saying sorry, that you understand what went wrong and how you were going to make a change so that that doesn't happen again. And you can actually build a lot of relationships by being honest and explaining to people why you're apologizing and move on from there. If you don't clean up your mess, you don't get very far.
Given the opportunities and challenges associated with artificial intelligence, AI often became part of our discussion.
Yeah, it's a foundational question, and everybody's kind of trying to figure that out. I think we've already seen in healthcare and other industries that AI is really good at creating efficiencies in what I would call back office processes. So in the medical world, AI can transcribe doctors' notes, and they no longer have to do more than just have AI listen to their visit with a patient. They don't have to dictate, right? AI can automate sending in claims to insurance companies and trying to put together medical records when the insurance company is doing a prior authorization, right? Needs to approve something. I'm just giving you some examples, reminding people about things AI can do. But when it touches diagnosis or treatment, this is where AI and the trust issue gets a little bit dicey right now. Right? Can we really trust AI to make a diagnosis to say you have just like I said, a risk of a stroke or a heart attack, or treatment, recommended treatment? My belief is even today it can be used as a tool to present doctors with information to really, it's concise to review, but these really critical diagnosis or treatment decisions need to still be supervised by a professional. That's my belief. Because of that, I don't think we're at a point where people will trust AI to be their doctor.
The greatest risk of AI isn't that it will become too smart and take over, it's that we will become too trusting and stop thinking. In 2025, AI is a mirror of human knowledge. It reflects our brilliance, but also our biases and our errors. As leaders and creators, your goal shouldn't be to achieve perfect trust with a machine. Instead, aim for strategic skepticism. Use AI to handle the what and the how, but the why should always be considered. A sense of purpose, ethics, and accountability is something a model can simulate, but only a human can truly own.
Let's jump to a moment that sparked a lot of reflection.
So that's how I think about trust. And contextually is different, but at the core it's not different because the definition of trust applies in any context, right?
Mm-hmm.
The difference with, let's say, business where, hey, listen, if you trust someone to bring you into the right situation because you all agree that that's what would happen, you start to understand, okay, yes, that person kept their word, and they've done it every time I've asked them to do something. But if you get someone that you can't trust, right, in a business context, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is business results end up being negatively impacted, whether it's in a team environment or whether or not it's with the customer. It was an important customer because there's a lack of trust there with the customer. But in the military, the difference is it has life-altering implications. In other words, lives on the line if you can't trust someone to do their job. So if you get something wrong because you put someone you don't trust in a situation that requires trust, that can go sideways quickly and a whole mission can be compromised and lives can be lost. So trust is important no matter what it is, but the impact on, a bad business outcome, which no one wants, but certainly no one wants to lose their life over someone that you couldn't trust. And all of a sudden you find out that person is someone you shouldn't have trusted.
Many of the leaders on our podcast spoke about mentors that help guide them in their careers. Here are a few that stood out.
I would say, honestly, that my dad was my greatest mentor. He was a scientist as well as a professor at MIT. He had 200 students from around the world, all PhDs and postdocs, that loved him. They loved him so much, they created a group called Arnie's Army and Friends that would have a symposium for him in his honor every 2 years somewhere in the world. They would all come and talk about the research they've been doing to get his insights so that he can keep up with them. I mean, he was that kind of guy. He loved people. He loved working with people. He would sit on an airplane with a little notepad from the hotel and write like 15 notes to people and then mail them when he got home. It was really the beginning of the biotech industry, and his students became the first generation of biotech specialists as the industry grew in the 70s to the 90s and beyond. But he would take my brother and myself to his meetings. He'd introduce us. So he let us see what he was doing and how he did it. And that really affected me growing up. And it took me a while, but eventually I caught on and used him as my role model throughout my career, and I still do. He always said to me, well, this is about LES, he always said, join your professional society. And I didn't do it for many years, but then eventually I got involved with LES, the Licensing Executive Society that you mentioned, and I became president after a few years. And he was like, I didn't tell you to become president. I just told you to join.
Yeah. It's interesting to have several, but I will say there was one mentor early in my career. He gave me some of the most valuable feedback, and it relates to trust. It was when I was working at the company that was an expert in customer loyalty and insight, data and activation. I knew my stuff. I really did. But when I was asked a question that I only partially knew my stuff, I felt like I needed to answer with confidence. And he was like, people are listening to you, people trust you. And I can tell when you don't fully know the answer, and that's going to decrease your credibility, right? It's okay to say, I don't know. I mean, it was sort of like this epiphany moment because I didn't think prior to that moment early in my career that it was okay to say, I don't know. It was my job to know, I thought. And having that moment where somebody said, literally, it's okay. I've embraced that for the rest of my career. Now, to be super clear, I say, I don't know, and I will find out that answer. And I will follow through as one does when they're trying to build trust. But I think that thing, I don't know, and I've observed so many people in my career that are uncomfortable saying, I don't know. And you know, they should be saying it, right? And it really does decrease credibility when you catch somebody kind of talking their way through something and making things up as they go, even when they're a great person and they're just trying to deliver, you know? So I think as it relates to trust, I think that mentor really, really kind of changed the way I operate for the better. I remember the feedback is always hard to take, but I heard it and I understood it and appreciated it. I still do.
Here's a moment that reframed how leaders think about trust.
Well, I think we covered a lot for sure. I think a closing thought for me would be sort of my overall mantra when it comes to leadership. And I think that, leadership isn't necessarily about having all the answers. It's okay to say, I don't know, but it's about creating environments where people can do their best work. They can grow. They can feel confident being curious, because being curious in an untrusting environment is super difficult. But the benefit of being curious in an environment where you feel trusted and empowered to do so is a game changer. So that to me is the environment that I've tried to create here at AWeber, and quite frankly, to educate anyone who will listen to me about it. Because at the end of the day, we want to be happy and we want to know that that happiness is supported. When you build an environment and a culture that ultimately does that, I believe that you'll have a tremendous amount of success internally and externally. And that's what it's all about.
Here's a clip that continues to shape how I think about leadership.
I think you kind of were leading into this, Michael, and I'm actually excited to check out your book. I'm sure it's going to speak to this, but just the importance of always being, I mentioned it earlier and you did too, self-reflective in this work. I feel like as leaders, people with, whether I have 30 years of experience or others that are more than me, you always have to be reflective. And sometimes there is distrust. You can have trust that has been broken, and it's important that you get ahead of it. And I'm not going to deal with that person. They don't mean anything to me. Every person means something in your industry. And so it's about being able to be humble and speak into what maybe you did that was not the best way to approach something. And so I just think as leaders, we more need to speak to that as where could we have maybe do things differently. We're always adapting our styles of leadership, but you have to adapt always in meeting the needs of who you're working with. So I really take that seriously every day too, as I tell my team, I'm far from perfect. If there's something I do that you feel is not the best, please come talk to me and I'll have a discussion with you. But I'd rather have that than someone talking about me behind my back and you're getting someone else to get rubbed the wrong way. Let's just nip it in the bud and move forward.
Those were some of the moments that define the first 9 episodes of Win Via Trust. As I continue reflecting on the season, there may be additional highlights worth sharing. But for now, I hope these insights offer a strong reset and a reminder of what trust makes possible in your own leadership journey. This has been Mike Rabinowitz on the Win Via Trust Leadership Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to future podcasts and blogs at winviatrust.com. Thank you for listening and being part of this conversation.